Part 2. Here we go. Number 3 on my list is The Dark Knight Rises. Yeah, this movie, even in my family, there's a split in people who hate it, people who like it. And I think the movie is good. Definitely not as good as The Dark Knight, but then again, that was a really tough act to follow. And it was one of these movies that they tried to really end the story, and it was, I think the ending is something that I can agree was kind of ham-handed, but the rest of the movie I thought was good. Now, one of the things is, Bruce Wayne would not have he would not have quit being Batman. He would not have stopped being Batman. That's not who Batman is. With this sort of thing, you gotta remember, this is not the regular DC universe. This is a completely different area. This is an Elseworld. This is not the regular DC universe. And so with Elseworld, you don't have the same rules that apply with the regular comic book continuity. You can change things. You can have a Bruce Wayne that doesn't want to do this forever. He even said in the beginning, Batman Begins, and through The Dark Knight, that he did not want to do this forever. That's not who he was. And to have them actually just stop and say, okay, basically he got what he wanted in a sense, because Gotham was very peaceful and was not, as crime ridden as it was throughout Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. And to see him actually become a recluse was an interesting thought, an interesting idea. Like, what would happen if Bruce Wayne decided to stop being Batman? And so that was a cool thing. And I also liked that, he had suffered. The scene where he goes to the doctor and the doctor tells him, you have no more cartilage in your knees. And the doctor tells him all of the injuries that are in his body is just like his shoulder and his knees. It was just in a good scene, because too often with these movies, especially with superhero movies, you don't get to hear like, you suffered this, and this. It's just they're completely passed to the side and nobody talks about it. But with this one, you do talk about it, at least in some way. So that was a cool thing to see. Also, another thing that gets people going is Bird. Now, me, I like Bane. I like doing the Bane voice. It's kind of funny to do the Bane voice. Also, it's so much better than the voice we got from Batman and Robin. Work, honey. I don't like Batman and Robin. But the Bane in this one, he was a lot more sophisticated. Just like he was in the comics in a sense. But this was a different sort of, sophistication to it, because he was also used as a leader of people to get changes done, and to not just change it but to take over Gotham. And that's one of the things that was a key connecting thing between all three movies. They were trying to take over Gotham for their own reasons, whereas in Batman Begins and The Dark Knight Rises, they wanted to take over Gotham to rule over it, whereas in The Dark Knight, the Joker just wanted to take over Gotham just because. He didn't want to rule it, he just wanted to send it to chaos. Which leads me into one of the best things about this, is that it proved the Joker right. Because if you remember in The Dark Knight, the Joker tells Batman, I'm not a monster, I'm just ahead of the curve. And he said, when the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other. And he was right. It took the whole town 8 years to get to where he was. Because once things went bad with Bane, boom, they just turned on each other. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. Yeah. So who really won in that sense? But also, Bane was also an interesting character, because they didn't use the Venom, which I liked. I liked that they didn't use Venom. And the story they told of rising up, being in the prison and doing the jump. And this is another thing that's between me and my family, is that, how could Batman have gotten his ass beat so easily by Bane the first time, and then come back, just do a jump, you gotta do a, yeah, I didn't want a training montage. That's what I asked. Did you want a training montage? Him getting fit and muscular again and doing the jump? Yeah, that would have been meaningless. Also, the other thing about that is it's not your body, it's your spirit that need to be reawoken. And even Bane has said, I want to go to breakfast. Your spirit or your body? Oh, and then he broke his back. And the thing is, like, his spirit wasn't broken, but it was bruised. And to see him actually rise up from that and make that leap, and that was the thing. It wasn't the body, it was the mind, it was the spirit, because the physical part is just being able to jump it. Overcoming the fear of that jump and knowing that you could die, that's the main issue on that. And to see him do that was interesting, and I thought was a good part of the movie. So, and I also like the fact that Batman did get his ass beat by Bane the first time and had to come back and rise up from inside like a phoenix. So, yeah, definitely a good movie. Definitely not as good as The Dark Knight, but that was a hard act to follow. But I do think it's a good way to have ended the trilogy. That's what I think. So number 2 on my list is actually 2 movies in one. Oh, you get a double feature on this, and it is The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. Man, people seem to hate these movies, especially the second one. I don't know why, because Garfield in this one is a better Spider-Man, a better Peter Parker, I think, than Tobey Maguire is. First of all, what you saw this Peter Parker do that you didn't see in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies is you actually got to see him use his mind and try to figure out how to solve certain things. Like in the second movie where Electro fries his web shooter and he's got to figure out, what do I do to make sure he doesn't fry my web shooter? And you see him go through that process of trying to do this, trying to do that. What can he do? What can he do? And even something he doesn't figure it out. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But you don't see that sort of thing in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. And that's why I think this one is actually better. Not to mention the villains on this one are a lot more diverse and a lot more, well, I guess diverse is the best word, than the villains in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie. It was all the Green Goblin in all 3 movies, basically. And you had the Osborns, and all 3 of them, they were the main villains. Whereas in the first Amazing Spider-Man movie, it was Doc Connors. And Norman Osborn is basically just a shadow, just in the background. Yeah, he's sick, he needs this, he needs that. But the main villain is actually Doc Connors. And in the second movie, you have your main villain with Harry Osborn, but you also have the villain with Electro. And Electro is an interesting character because he was all about, nobody knows me, I'm nobody, I'm nothing. And just have somebody just tell him, hey, how's it going, Max? How you doing, Max? Good to see you, Max. You're my eyes and ears out here, Max. Just to have, he was starved for attention. He was desperate for attention. And that's one of the things that these 2 movies had, was an overarching, what's the word I'm looking for? The overarching connection is desperation. Peter Parker desperately trying to find answers. What happened to his parents? You had the Osborns desperately trying to find a cure for their disease that was making them shake and doing all sorts of other stuff to them. You had Doc Connors desperately trying to regrow that limb. There was a great scene in The Amazing Spider-Man, the first one, where he's in a mirror and his left arm, he's just caressing where his right arm would be here. And it was a nice little thing just to see like the part that's lopped off and him, like it's phantom limb syndrome in a sense, because he's desperate for that. You had Electro desperate for some sort of recognition, trying to have some sort of connection to other people, but now he's truly an outcast. And desperate for recognition for his work. They stole his blueprints designs. That sort of thing is all together. But in the first Spider-Man trilogy, there wasn't that. There wasn't that sort of thing going on. It was just, the Osborns are doing something. Also, the chemistry between Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy is so much better than Peter Parker and Mary Jane Osborn in the original Spider-Man trilogy. You had Gwen Stacy really helping Peter solve problems. She's the one that figured out, what if you magnetize your web shooters? What if you do this? She's the one that helps him in the first movie get the antidote for the lizard gas. That sort of thing happens quite a bit in the first two Amazing Spider-Man movies, but that doesn't happen in the first Spider-Man trilogy. You don't see that. Mary Jane was just there. She was, basically an object. Whereas with Gwen Stacy, she was truly her own character. She didn't need to leech off of Peter Parker. As I heard the Nostalgia Critic actually say this, she wasn't just a superhero girlfriend. She was her own character, and that's true. So I think these movies get a lot more hatred than they deserve, especially the second one. But if you really look at it unbiasedly and with an open mind, you will see that these two movies are actually a little bit better than the Spider-Man trilogy. It is that people were just quick to jump on the hatred for it. That's what I think. Now, with all that said, that's not the number one movie. What could possibly be more hated than the two Amazing Spider-Man movies? That is, drumroll please. Insert drum roll here, I guess. Number one, The Man of Steel. Yeah, this movie, even the sequel coming out, that's getting some hatred. That movie hasn't come out yet. But let me go over some of the big things going on with why people hate this movie. Superman doesn't kill! Well, Superman has killed in the comics a few times. Also, like I said, this is not the comic Superman. This is an Elseworld. You don't have to strictly, abide by the rules of the DC universe in this sort of continuity. It's something completely new. So having him kill is not that big of a deal in that context. It is a big deal for the character-wise, and you saw him screaming in mental and psychological pain when you see him. He felt like he had to kill, and not to mention, this is Superman. This is something my brothers and I have discussed. This, and I'll quote my brother's words to you. This is Superman that never learned the value of human life. He didn't. His first was, you gotta protect your secret. If they know you're not one of us, and if you're not from around here, they'll take you away. And that wasn't just with Jonathan Kent dying trying to save a dog, but it was an earlier scene where Clark Kent pushes the bus out of the river, and his dad said, "You shouldn't have done that." And Clark asked him, "What was I supposed to do? Let them die?" What does his dad say? Maybe. And that's the thing. He was taught to conceal the fact that he's an immigrant. That's really what he is. He's an immigrant. And so that sort of thing was kept in with, you gotta protect your secret. And now that sort of thing was, well, how do I protect the people and who I am? And he can't. And not to mention, the other thing was, there's so much wholesale destruction. First of all, I like it. Come on. There's one thing that I did not get in 10 years of the Smallville TV series is a knockdown, drag out, fist flying super fight through the streets of Smallville. Yeah, you better believe it. Oh, sorry, I went a little evil there. Sorry. Oh, gotta calm myself here. Yeah. You did not get that. And it was cool to see him do that sort of thing. Not to mention, he would have taken the fight somewhere else. He tried that, remember? When he tried to take off, they grabbed him and threw him into a train yard, remember? Yeah, that sort of thing happens. You can't always choose your battlefield. Sometimes there is collateral damage. And that was the reality that finally got shown in this particular movie. Not to mention the fight between Zod. If he tried to fly and just take the battle somewhere else, Zod, at the point, I don't think he was able to fly, that came a little bit later while they were fighting, Zod would have just destroyed whoever was there. He would just kill, because he even said, You love these people so much, you can watch them burn. You really think if Superman would have taken off, Zod wouldn't have just blasted the people who were there with heat vision? No, of course he would have done it. And so that's the thing, though. You got to look at it differently than what you think of from the regular continuity. And in this sense, yeah, it does make sense for Superman to kill. It does make sense for him not to be able to choose his battlefields and have, collateral damage. And that's one of the things, though, you don't really see in a lot of movies the people in the streets. And that's what's been going on recently that I like. Sorry about that. That's one thing I really like going on in the movies, is that you actually see the destruction and the collateral damage being shown. You got to see people like running for their lives and trying to survive. That sort of thing is interesting to see nowadays, because that's real. That's how things would happen if you had a super fight go down. But this movie gets too much hatred for those two main things, and I think they're done well. I also like the fact that they show Krypton as a living, breathing planet in a sense, because every other time we've seen Krypton was just in this little isolated crystal. It didn't seem like it was its own planet. It just seemed, oh yeah, it's just a room. That was basically it. But you got to see Krypton be a planet, and I like that. I like that a lot. And I like this movie quite a bit. It's a good superhero movie, I gotta admit. You got to see the idea of him being an immigrant, trying to conceal that he's not from around here, or else he would be taken away by the government. You got to see somebody not being able to choose their battlefield and see collateral damage that could really happen. Not to mention Christopher Maloney's character is really cool too in this movie. I don't know what his name was. I would probably call him Detective Benson, but no, sorry, not Detective Benson. That was his partner, Detective Stabler. I would have called him Detective Stabler. But yeah, good movie. Definitely deserves more praise than it gets. Just like the rest of these movies, they get too much hate. But those are my opinions. Take them for what they're worth. So what? Let me know what you think. Do you like these movies? Do you think they suck? Do you think they deserve the hatred they get? If not, then hey, cool. So that's all I got. I don't know what my next video is going to be about, but look forward to it if you even watch these. Alright, bye.